what we're walking into, this is an old 1910 forge that we converted into a wood mill over the last many decades. So you'll notice the high ceilings and the way this building was structured for being a place where you'd melt metal, and now we're making wood. So we're going to show you Southern California's or the Western United States leading custom manufacturer. We stock over 200 species here at any given time and over 20 million square feet of material. So we're just putting things back. This is a guy who makes these wood caps for us. And I was looking for a book. I left a book by Humboldt. Well, they use green wood, and they use a series of bungee cords to slowly bend the wood up. And each one is handmade, hand-shaped. This is made in 2022. It's ambrosia maple. It's number 1857. So we're going to get this. Normally, this wall is our wood display wall, but I'll show you. We had a famous surfer say it was a little boring the way we show our wood, so come down here and I'll show you. So while we're painting, this is just some stuff that we took down, but the carpenter, the surfer said, "You're showing this wood to carpenters or wood people. Those typical way you show wood is a little boring. What if," he said, "how many species do you have?" He said, 200. He said, "Well, what if I made you 200 surfboards, each one with a different veneer?" And we have them in quivers of 6, so we can put them up at trade shows and make a big arc of these 200 surfboards to kind of make a circle. And then he also very cleverly, he bought an old car, that's my partner, 32 Ford, and he's had this converted. And first we thought he was mad to spend the amount of money he spent on this thing. And it's all made out of gorgeous wood. This is burl wood. So this is the car. He put $250,000 into it and he turned down $500,000 to sell it. So first we thought, "You're spending $250,000 in repairs?" He says, "Yeah." And then it's worth $500,000. Oh, okay.
That's a good investment then.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of out of my league. I wouldn't have thought like that. But, so this is stuff that's normally scattered around, but while we're painting, this is just. But you'll see us. We've got the wood skateboards, surfboards, motorcycles. We should have in here where we put them some gorgeous guitars. One's handmade for Carlos Santana, and maybe they're tucked away somewhere. But we sell most of the guitar manufacturers wherever there's wood. So we do the exotics. We don't do normal, like regular oak or pine. We're doing something that's got to be figured, quartered, sliced, diced, riffed, something to make it special. So like these cabinets is an example. This kind of quilted look, that's, there's plain veneer and then there's fancy veneers. And then we make all kinds of, you can see by the wall, decorative type displays. If somebody wants a logo or a starburst in their wall or floor.
Is it laser cutting?
Yes. Yeah, well, you'll see we actually have the logs out back where we start slicing them, putting them in the kiln. But then some of the veneer we have sliced up in Indiana, depending on what the product is. We make our live edge tables here. So, all right, we will continue on the tour here.
Oh, look at this elephant! Oh my God!
In the old days, when we'd start a relationship with an overseas vendor, in Thailand in particular, they would send us an elephant. And therefore, we have lots of elephants. We have our own herd of elephants.
You mean they'd send you an actual live elephant?
No, a wooden elephant.
Wooden elephant.
We have wooden elephants, and we've got them scattered about. But
They used to employ the elephants.
yeah, in fact, when I started, we had 7,500 elephants working for us doing logging, as there's no forklifts in the jungle, so the elephants become the forklifts. These are bird's eye maple logs.
Looks like a mushroom. What is this?
Well, it's maple, And if you feel this, it's very prickery. It'll keep a bear from tearing it. So this feels like a big pricker bush, very prickery. And inside this is bird's eye maple. So it's much sought after, very pretty. And I'll show you more of these logs as we go. So what happens here, veneer comes in. Oh, that was me, the glasses, thank you. Veneer comes in here, this is the way it comes in flitches. And our job is to take these small pieces and convert them into big pieces.
Oh.
So we're gonna pick our veneers, and as we pick the veneers, we're gonna go through these machines called guillotines, where we're going to chop the veneer, clean it up. We make so much scrap every day that we used to give this stuff away to all the school wood shops.
Right.
For free, but now they don't have wood shops anymore, so we don't even have a place to give it away.
Too bad.
If you can imagine, this is this is Carthopathian burl elm, and we're going to make this into 5 by 10 foot sheets. So how do you take these wee pieces like this and make a 5 foot by 10 foot piece of plywood? So we got to make faces. So we're going to take those pieces and literally book match them, tape them together. And you see how it has this string with glue on the back?
Yes.
That's how we bind the pieces, like kind of a book bindery. And then that gets laminated and on the back, and you don't see it. So everything we do here has an order for it. Nothing is stock. Everything is for a specific order. These guillotines are called appropriately because this blade will drop, and this is the cutting line. And so we can take an uneven piece of veneer into the machine, and we'll cut it to get straight edges to where we can then put it together over here. So here's some pieces that have already been trimmed out of oak. And now this is ready to be laminated for something. So these tables do the sewing together of the faces. And from here, we'll make 4 by 8s, 5 by 10s, or whatever it is that's being requested. This is our new Cooper machine, and Cooper is one of the big names in our industry, what we do. Cooper slicers. So and you'll see Cooper there and Cooper everywhere. And Torwigi is another big name in our industry. On the right side of the factory, we have laminators where we do traditional gluing as well as radio frequency gluing. And
What
then
is
we
that?
have RF gluing. Radio frequency is where you use RF rays to heat the glue. It acts as a catalyzer, and it's a quick way to glue things together. A cold clamp, you got to usually wait 24 hours. The RF glues are just minutes. We do cut to size cabinetry. So if you have a hotel, you're going to need so many drawers for, say, your bathroom and so on. So we can make the cut to size drawers, and then we also edge band them. So you get a drawer ready for the carpenter, just put his hardware on and put the finish on. This is a rotary veneer, and you see the crazy grain on that.
This came as one piece. It wasn't glued
Yeah,
together.
this is rotary. This is peeled.
Right.
Yeah, right. See, they'll show them drawings. Here's an example, not to look at the customer's name, but this is, so we're seeing veneers go different directions, right? So will it go this way or this way? So usually with veneers, we get specifications so we know how to lay up the panels. Yes, yeah, these are matched faces. But this color, this isn't the normal color of the wood. This has been like the fuming or carbonized to create this kind of natural color. These are all more of these maple logs. This one kind of looks like a big aorta.
Oh, a lot of these pieces.
Yeah. And there's more down there and more down there. You see them back. We've got a ton of them where to put them all. As we go through here, we have 4 lines. That's a glue spreader that he's got working. So the plywood has a face in the back or a top and a bottom. So they're putting the glue on the panel, then they're going to pull the sheet stock, and it goes through this big heat hydraulic press. This is our biggest machine here that runs so fast that we got to have bigger orders. So these are our smaller machines that are a little more maneuverable. He's laying it down. See, there's a back on it. Now he's going to put the face on it. They got a piece on the back and a piece on the top and a piece in the middle. Now that's going to go into the press, and that's timed. When it comes out the back, you'll feel it's hot to the touch. But this is where we do the pressing, whether it be same kind of thing for whether we're making plywood or we're making flooring, the concept is the same.
And it's pressed together with the glue, with the epoxy, or?
Yeah, well, see, the glue is here.
Oh,
So
that's
we,
the glue.
we run the panel through the glue spreader. So that panel has already got glue on the top and bottom. And then they pull the faces on it and put them together.
And the press.
This is when I started with the slabs. I just had some stacks down there, which I thought was really something. And now we've got 10,000 slabs. So
Wow.
this, when they're on, this is called putting them on sticks. We have to air dry them to let some moisture blow through the logs in order to get the moisture content down to where we can put them in the dry kiln.
Do you slice them and they come sliced? They come like
We slice them.
Oh, you slice them here?
Yeah, I'll show you the machine.
Okay, wow.
So that's some complicated order, just keeping track of all the different sizes.
Yes.
So that's a good example of a cut to size plywood order. It's probably for a cabinet shop. You see how this is called book matched walnut?
Yes. This is walnut. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Double antenna. This just trims the sides. You'll see it put it in here. It's a trimming machine. Clean up those ends. We actually, the big green lifter down there, that's a giant planer enabling us to plane these big tables, because for a lot of people it's hard for them to lift them, sand them. Yeah. Sapelli from Africa, birch from Scandinavia. So this is sold to this company in Cerritos. Rift red oak tells you the different things that we've got here. This must be for an order. A-grade veneer, from Danzer. It's a whole world unto itself. So up until recently, we kept our logs here, but OSHA said they were unsafe.
Unsafe?
In fact, our whole factory, they made us lower the height of wood by 40%.
Oh, no.
So we had to get a whole nother building. So we had to move 40% of our material.
Oh, that's such a hustle.
Yeah, yeah. So here we make slabs out of these. We bring the logs in. Well, here's an example. And see things like this, we make showers out of logs like that. For outdoor showers.
Oh.
I've got one inside that I've had for years. I'm waiting to put it to use.
Hello.
Is this a walnut?
Hi.
Yes.
Claro or Bastogne?
Oregon, just outside of Eugene.
Just an Oregonian walnut?
This is from Oregon?
Yes.
So this is a regular walnut, like
Black walnut, yeah.
that just happened to be growing out west. Also a kind of walnut. If you get metal in there, like a bullet, it leaves a black stain.
Oh.
Like this log looks like it's been shot.
Been shot? Huh.
People shoot into trees.
Long time ago.
Yeah. That actually, when we're doing logging in areas where there was like the Civil War, they know if a tree is so tall where the Civil War was, and when that log was down low, it's filled with shrapnel.
Oh, wow.
And in World War II, in Germany,
Same.
the same thing from World War II. So this would be very similar to what shrapnel would do. Iron, nails, bullets, make these are called iron oxide stains. More often than not, they're bullets. We keep these trees in numerical order. You'll see how this one was starting to get some rot in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
So when this starts that decay, that's when it's time the tree's gonna die. That's reached maturity and it's going the other way. Valeria, when I got drug around on these tours when I first started, I thought, what is all this stuff? All this debris and piles of wood. So we have lots of different sheet stock that people use for laminating up. This used to be where we kept our hardwood lumber, but we've moved that out, and this is now part of a new line. We're doing some decorative laminates, which is new. So this is a cold laminator where we use a hydraulic cold press. And so this is, they're making a laminate product versus instead of a wood veneer, this is one of these. And so he's running it through the glue spreader. Oh, and so they're laminating a wood face to this. There's a lot of handwork in doing what we do.
Yeah.
This guy has it just, you gotta just square it perfectly. So there's the wood face, or laminate face. So that's what's gonna be exposed. And now these go into where those other big machines were hot presses and it sets the glue instantly. This is gonna go into this big blue cold press, and it's just gonna squeeze them.
For some time.
Yep,
Squeeze.
24 hours usually. These are the core that we use when people say we need to make a kitchen cabinet or office furniture or hotel furniture. Particle boards, veneer cores, lumber cores, so many different kinds of cores. Medite is over here by Roseburg, is a famous product line. And so when people call us up and say, well, I'm building a house or a hotel, what do I need? What's the most appropriate product to use for our application? And our job is to keep enough of everything so we can get orders out.
Quicker.
Yeah, because a lot of this stuff takes months to get. So that's why we have it in stock, because customers don't want to wait, usually months. Weeks is okay, months is long. So here is, again, more just kind of staging. We used to keep our big pieces of redwood hidden in the back, and a guy bought them up in Weed, California, and these pieces he paid $300,000 for, these gorgeous pieces of redwood slabs.
Oh, they gone?
And then they burned down.
Oh no.
His house burned down. The whole city burned down. This is a CNC type saw. 150 blades drops out of this thing. It's got suction tables. This machine does the work of a dozen people. And we're short workers. We need to hire another 25 people with any. We can't hire enough guys. There is some, like this is robotic, right? But there's still a lot of handwork that has to be done, and especially on smaller orders. Robotics are good for bigger orders where you've got repetition, but when we're making 3 of this, 2 of that, and some 4 foot, some 5 foot, it's different sizes, shapes, colors. So somebody knows where all this stuff is. There's a guy in our office, he could keep 3 million feet memorized. It's just unbelievable that once you start doing inventory. Remember I told you about that big redwood tree?
Yes.
This branch was about 100 feet up, or 30 meters plus. It had been hit by lightning and caught on fire, so it was black. They sandblasted it, and this is going to be the shower in my house.
Oh, wow.
And that's a 2,500-year-old piece of redwood. To think that that was 30 meters up in the air, growing for thousands of years. So that started, when you think about it, if it's 2,800 years old, 400 BC, they take the rings. Actually, we sent it out to a lab, and they use a microscope to look at the grains and the rings, and they can tell you how old this stuff is.
That's incredible.
Growth rings, yeah. Well, we told the story that we thought it was only 2,000 years old. So we said there was this guy named Jesus, and he had this mom named Mary and a dad named Joe. He was a carpenter, made furniture down in Jerusalem.
Right.
And the lady said, oh, you got to drop this Jesus story. I said, oh, I'm offending a Christian. She said, no, you need to say King Tut was walking along the Euphrates because you're off 1,000 years. So I said, oh, okay. So this tree was already well growing by the time Jesus came around. That's why you got to go back to, say, the days of the pharaohs. So these things grow for thousands of years. Well, these are just showing some of the slabs that we do. That's a walnut, and that's monkey pod.
Wow. Who would be client for that piece?
A conference room, conference tables. It's called Warrenta, and look at the way it grows naturally. Is that wild?
That's not a laser cut? That came like this?
Yeah, that's the way it grows.
What's
Look
it
at,
called?
see, that's Warrenta. It's you see the bark in there? That's
Yes. Oh, yes.
it grows crazy like that. Yeah, that's fun. It's very dense, very heavy. So this is the way we're able to sell the veneers now.
Oh.
Right? We roll them up, and these are the wood veneers. It's remarkable. So I'm going to show
they
you.
ship like that?
Yeah, they just ship like that.
They don't ship mounted on things.
Not anymore. You don't have to. That's veneers with sticky backs that people can then stick to something once they get it.
No way.
I'm looking for where I put the samples.
Amazing. So that can go to
Oh.
a local carpenter
Yeah.
shop.
This veneers are getting more and more expensive as woods get more and more exotic. Larry Ellison, a guy from Oracle, came up with a camera where we're able to photograph wood. Like up here, that is vertical grain teak on the outside and zebra wood on the inside. And both those are fake.
Fake?
It's real wood. It's Italian white poplar. And the wood is photographed into the white poplar. So it's like an inkjet.
So it's a different wood.
Yeah.
Printed on a different wood.
Yeah, and you can make, I'll show you some more woods, it's remarkable that we can mimic real woods, like rare jungle woods that we don't want to cut down anymore. And we can make these reconstituted or faux FAUX woods that look like the real deal. Just
Wow.
one more crazy thing.
So this is printed
Correct. Yeah.
because it's one
Yep.
piece. It's
Yep.
not.
Well, this is a little white oak edge band. But here's where we show our veneer samples. When people say, well, I want something in a redwood or a reddish color. So that's madrone. So that's a California burl. Have you heard of madrone before? It's like chinkapin. It grows in Northern California.
Wow.
And you put finish on that. So when people want samples, this is where we go to pull samples from. And then just alphabetically, you can just mow through the different products.
So how many different products?
Usually a couple hundred. This is what the ash looks like before you thermally modify it. When you thermally modify it, it becomes chocolate brown
Wow.
because of the sugars. But that
Right.
is white ash. And they make baseball bats out of that.
But you don't thermally modify it here, do you? It's not-
In Northern California, we do the softwoods in Northern California, and the hardwoods we do back at the sawmills back east, Pennsylvania and Virginia, where we do our cutting. So the goal is to have minimal carbon footprint or reduce the carbon footprint as much as possible.
Right.
So we've got treaters on either coast, and
And then they ship it here after they modify it.
correct. Well, traditionally, American woods weren't good for outdoors, interior woods. But when you thermally modify the wood, you remove the sugars out of the wood. You're basically petrifying the wood, and it'll last for decades outside because there's nothing to rot in it. And termites can't eat it because it's got no sugar in it. They'll starve to death if they eat thermal modified wood. So we think that's the biggest.
Because there's no sugar, nothing to eat, so they
right,
don't.
Yeah.
How about fires? Is it?
Well, it gets a B rating, which like there's CBA. We now have learned how to. Gensler introduced us to a company that does A ratings, and we did the San Francisco airport. Normally they're pressure treated to do the fire retardation. You have to have a penetrating product that will last for the life of the wood, And we found a
To
company
be
down
A,
in,
to be rated as A, is
Right, yeah.
flame spread rating.
Yeah, in fact, that's what I'm working on today, a bunch of A stuff. But-
Do you know
so-
what terminal in San Francisco? Is it Harvey Milk, the new terminal?
Oh, well, I can look. No, it was a new terminal. It just we finished it probably 4 years ago. Maybe
probably
3
Harvey
years
Milk,
ago.
yeah.
Must be, yeah. And that was Ginsler Architects.
Right.
And we didn't send them A wood. We didn't. We just sent them regular wood. But then I got nervous when I saw that wood supplied by us A rating, and they said no, we applied it after it was installed. Really? And they had a company that had gotten approved. It's out of Texas. And so I asked Ginsler, could you tell me who to contact? And we've been using them.
So it just covering over?
Yeah,
Or is it
It's like the old products, except it's got better penetration and they can warranty it for the life of the wood.
Oh, wow.
Where products like Flame Stop and Flame Off, they'd only warranty them for 5 years, and then so you have to reapply it.
Right.
So nobody ever reapplied the product, and that's why they're,
Right, of course.
yeah, so
Is it for interior or for exterior, do you know?
exterior.
Exterior, so it can be used,
That's what it's primarily what it's for.
wow, that's
So
incredible.
we can take a red oak, thermally modify it to 420 degrees over a 24-hour period, hand it back to you and say you can now build a boat out of it. Bugs won't eat it. It's temperature resistant, water resistant. It's so remarkable, we thought that it was a trick in the beginning, and I was going to show the Disney people they were getting tricked, because I asked people in America and nobody heard of it, and it just seemed like just using heat and steam can do all this amazing stuff.
So first heat and then steam?
Well, no, you put it into a vacuum kiln, suck out the oxygen, blow steam in, and then you spike the heat to 200 Celsius, and the sugars evaporate around
But it
200.
does, because of, it doesn't burn because
Correct.
you put
You
steam.
pulled out the oxygen,
Oxygen.
you've blown steam in.
Nothing to
And you're
burn.
increasing the temperature twice of normal combustion.
Right.
And that's why you can't have any oxygen. If oxygen gets in, it turns into a bomb and it'll blow up.
Okay.
And we've all blown up a kiln.
Oh no.
Yeah, we blew up. There were 3 of us that started, and we each had 1 kiln blow up. And then we found out we bought the first kilns from a Russian guy who was a fast talker. And then we went to Scandinavia and went to the factories that make them and spent a lot more money and bought. This is the latest and greatest. So this is a piece of regular, that's a 2-inch thick piece of pine.
What is this?
That's radiata pine from New Zealand.
Uh-huh.
That's a plantation pine that's been thermally modified. So you can use that outdoors. Now this is radiata pine that's been infused with wax. And this is the strongest product probably on the market, as you can feel by the density of that,
Yeah.
how heavy it is. This happens to be some thermal modified mahogany we did with Disney. And then they wanted some gray.
You want to paint it this way?
Yeah, paint mahogany. This is the oak, I guess. Does it say on here? Yeah, that's the thermal modified oak, which is very similar to the ash. This is ash, that's oak. You can see the color is pretty similar. So this is
the original ash.
correct. This is what we're getting away from. That's ipe. Right? That's what we don't want to cut down anymore, because that
Right.
takes hundreds of years to grow. This is a popular pattern that we use on walls and
Yes.
ceilings. It's called triple shadow, and it goes together very nicely. So it's like 3 pieces at once. And then you can hide doors and things in cabinets with
Right.
this. So people just push the wall and then a door opens. So
Is this for exterior?
outdoors. Yeah.
Outdoors?
This is all exterior.
Also
These are
consider-
plantation pines, mahogany, ash, oak. This has been our best-selling single item we've ever had for a molding. We did in red oak, white oak, walnut, cherry, western red cedar, poplar, ash, ton of different species. Thermal modified woods, you can end match them and float the joints between the joist. So if it's 16-inch on center, which
Right.
is normal, you can have a joint in the middle. It had to pass, Disney said, 500 pounds, which would be a one-legged guy bouncing up and down, right? To a big one-legged guy,
Right.
500 pounds, bouncing up and down. I said, well, okay, we'll test the 1-inch thick, came out at 3,700 pounds, And the 3/4 comes out at 2,500 pounds,
Wow.
or 5 times more than what they need. So now we can end match the decking, float it between the joist, which means there's no trimming. You just push it together
Yeah,
and go. You don't glue it, you don't nail
Right,
it, you just
nothing,
push and go. When you get to the end, you cut that piece off, and then that flips around and becomes your starter going the other direction. So the
Wow.
waste factor, which is normally 10 to 15%, goes to 1.
Wow, that's incredible.
And it cuts your installation time down by half because you're not cutting, trimming,
yeah.
nailing, you're just pushing and going.
Because it's thermally modified, it's strong enough.
Correct.
It's for decking.
Correct. The Vikings were busy burning down Europe in around 700 AD. At the same time, the Japanese created something called shoshugiban. Are you familiar with the Japanese? They burn the wood and then they use whisker brushes. It's
Yeah.
called shoshugiban. And it used to be said that it was a coincidence that the Japanese and the Vikings developed similar information at a similar time. Coincidence. But there's a boat called the Hukalea that has sailed between, let's see, Polynesia up to Hawaii, across the Atlantic, using celestial navigation, showing that these guys could build a boat and sail the 7 seas. Now they think the Vikings and the Japanese were talking. So
Right.
they did a study of water. This is through like National Geographic, water delivery systems in the year 0. And they compared water delivery systems in Pompeii, Machu Picchu, Angkor Wat, Hawaii, Zihuatanejo in Mexico. We went to half a dozen sites around the world. And the water systems were very similar.
Right.
And they think that these people were talking. It's not just a coincidence that there was actually trading going on
Right.
long before we thought trading was going on. Like Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. That's old hat. I mean, he discovered America? No.
For
The
himself,
Viking,
yeah.
but lots of people had been there before. So now history is being rewritten. And so this went back to, in the old days, guys needed to come up with some kind of preservative for wood. And when they were traveling and they'd go on voyages, they might be gone for a couple of years. And they'd take reindeer with them to pull their sleds or their implements of war, their catapults and the likes. And at nighttime, they have to let the reindeer eat. And so they needed to come up with some sort of a fence system. They found, at least what we've been told, the earliest known history was using wood to make fence posts to keep Viking reindeer from wandering away while they'd go traveling. And that's how people started in Europe hearing about, oh, they're using fire and heat. At the same time, the Japanese are doing that in Southeast Asia. And they're setting wood on fire and then putting it out and using a whisker brush to pull out the soft grain, repeating it. And as they do that, it actually builds up water resistancy within the wood itself. And they found with the repeated fire, heat, scrubbing, that they could create a water-resistant outdoor wood. And so Shoshugiban, all these Japanese houses, that so the technology had kind of gone by the wayside. We're cutting down tropical hardwoods instead of trying to find ways to use the woods that we have and make them better. And we just rationalize, well, we've got to use a wood like ipe because it lasts so long and it's so hard. But it also happens to be one of the leading trees, a canopy tree in the forest. You pull that tree down, it pulls all the vines down, it causes all the leaves to curl up. And when I was in Brazil mentioning that, well, it causes all the leaves to die, they said, yeah, it helps them catch kerosene. So we can set them on fire and burn them better. And the majority of the ipe trees weren't being cut for lumber. Because they're so heavy you can't transport them, they burn them for charcoal. And they'd cut the loads down so it could fit on the back of a burro. So they'd take,
that's terrible.
yeah, a 100-foot, 1,000-year-old tree and burn it. They'd cut it down and pour kerosene on it and cut it up as charcoal. They said there's no way for us to transport this heavy wood and get it to market. But if we burn it and cut it into charcoal, we can deliver that to the Chinese smelters and they'll pay us cash for charcoal. So they burn the forest down. So, an alternative, not only is this as good as tropical hardwood, it's better Because with a tropical hardwood, if you breathe the sawdust, it causes mesothelioma, or trashes your lungs.
Right.
You have to use carbide tips when you use a lot of these tropical hardwoods. And anything that lasts 1,000 years on the floor of the jungle, you don't want to get it in your lungs.
Right.
Because it's going to last a long time in your lungs too and cause irritation. So by being able to use American species that are sustainable, the challenge was that they didn't last long when exposed to the elements. Like in 24 months, they'd start to develop rot from the sugar inside the wood. By eliminating the sugar, it's a form of petrification. And now the wood becomes so stable, it loses its ability to contract or expand. It loses its ability to pick up temperature. So on a hot day, it'll stay cooler. On a cold day, it'll stay warmer. If you encapsulate a building with wood, it'll literally keep the building 10 degrees warmer in winter, 10 degrees cooler in summertime. If you use it for a pool deck in places like, say, Abu Dhabi or Arizona or Nevada, the wood will stay temperature neutral. It doesn't have the ability to pick up temperature, where tarmac, guy took a temperature monitor and the ground was 161 degrees. It was 122 outside, but the ground was 161. Our wood stayed right around 105. It was hot, but not enough to burn you. So kids could roll out of the pool and it would be warm, but it's not going to burn your skin off like 161 would. So, and then the recording studio's telling us it absorbs sound. So we use it in the walls. This particular pattern in the walls helps absorb sound. As we supplied all the wood to the Disney Music Hall. I'm going to show you. So you ask how big some of the logs are we get. That's the biggest guy in our company. He's like 350 pounds. He's massive. And he still looks little guy compared to that log. You see how big those guys are. So this is part of a log that's underwater, that's 250 feet tall. And the front of it is 20 feet underwater in a lake. And how we managed to get that out is a great adventure. But this is our motto: reclaim, recycle, recover, repeat. There's enough wood out there in the forest today that's been cut down, left behind, that there's no need for us to cut down living, big, healthy trees. There's enough stuff already in the system to reclaim, recover, recycle, repurpose. And so that's been our motto. There's always going to be roads being built and highways expanding and malls going in. So there will be trees getting cut, just natural progress. But as far as having to cut trees down for the sake of cutting trees down, there's lots of wood out there that allows us to.
How did you guys find this one in the bottom of the lake?
We got a call from the governor of California who knew we had this facility, and the lake was the Kennedy's family, as in former President Kennedy. And it took them evidently some decades. This lake is at 7,500 feet up the mountainside. And it took them years to stock this lake with fish. And it's the Kennedy's favorite fishing lake. Well, it turns out part of the trunk, but the whole part of the branches and everything is underwater 20 feet deep. And the leaves decomposing take up oxygen.
Right.
And a big tree like that would kill all the fish in the lake. So they said, we got a great deal for you. Free wood. There's only 2 catches. All right, what are they? It's on a mountaintop, there are no roads, and it's 20 feet underwater. It's like, what? 20 feet underwater. I didn't catch the last part. 20 what? 20 feet underwater? So, I said, all right, we'll go up there, and how, you know, the guy, my partner here, who's I think one of the most amazing guys I've ever met in the world, he is a true visionary. The guy who bought the car, and we thought he's nuts because he pays $250,000, it's worth $500,000. And he just goes to places. He went to China for his first time, and I'd been to China 50 times. His very first trip, he finds a lost warehouse from Mao Zedong from 1950, packed with ebony. And he buys it all, and we became the biggest provider of ebony in the world after he found this stuff this is just a couple of years ago, and it was put in this warehouse in 1950 and forgotten about. And these cities that they build, but were never populated in China, there's cities of 30, 40, 50,000 people, empty. They built the cities, but they never moved people there. So the lights go on and off at night, and they have people patrolling them, but the entire city is empty. It's really weird. But they had these warehouses filled with stuff, and he went and bought it. So he's great at finding things. To get this out of the lake, we're driving through Napa. He sees a big fire truck for sale. It has winches on the front and back. It's 4-wheel drive. He pays 25 grand and comes out with the keys and looking on his phone how to drive a huge fire truck that has 21 gears. And it's going, and you're supposed to have a Class 1 license. He uses this thing like a bulldozer, and he literally bulldozes a road up to the mountain. So now we're up at the mountain and there's this huge tree underwater. Now what? So he looks around, he sees a guy in a tent who's some crack guy, and he says, hey, you want to make $100? Can you swim out there and put this hook around the tree? And so the guy goes, man, $100, sure. He drops his clothes, he's up, underwear, freezing water, So the winch on the front of the fire truck, we pull it into shore, and now we have a 250-foot long, giant, muddy log. We go, now what do we do with this huge thing? Because it's, it's like 30 feet tall, so it's like a 3-story piece of wood. And he says, turn around, and I turn around, and there are 2 guys that look like Paul Bunyan. You know who Paul Bunyan is?
Yeah.
They have the wool cap, suspenders, checkered shirt, short pants, carrying a big saw, knee socks with the big boots, and these 2 guys are both, they look like they're 3 meters tall. They're huge, and they've got arms. They're holding a 3-meter saw in each hand that I went over to try and pick the thing up. I couldn't lift it up off the ground, and they grabbed this thing. Their arms are bigger than both my legs together. These were such massive guys. It took those guys 2 weeks to cut this tree up. We got 16 40-foot flatbeds out of that one tree.
Wow.
So if you think of 16 40-foot trailers full of wood, and then the story of moving it from there to here was a story unto itself, because people on the other side of the freeway started crashing, and so we had to tarp it.
They wanted to see it. It was like so
Yeah.
incredible. They couldn't.
Right, and we caused a whole bunch of accidents, which
Oh,
is a
no.
whole nother headache. It's like blaming us because people, anyway. And then with that, so some of the things we make, this is the Disney Music Hall. We do Google centers. These are live edge tables we do for Starbucks. We do Guess jeans worldwide. So any Guess jeans that's built anywhere in the world uses our wood. So we try and create relationships with restaurant chains,
Right.
or we work with Major League Baseball, basketball, football, and they have something called luxury boxes they're building in the stadium.
Right.
So we provide wood. Our job is to meet as many different people on their level as we can do. And that's why we carry less expensive, more expensive, complicated, less complicated. And
Right.
our motto is, if it's wood, we know a lot about a little. So as long as it's wood-centric,
Right.
we don't know about installations. We know about finishing because we know some great finishing guys, but we ourselves are not finishers.
Right.
We're the wood guys. So we can talk to you about the structure of wood and how it ages and how you got to dry it and yada yada, how you mill it, all those working properties. So we know a lot about a little.
Oh, well. Tom, thank you so much.